Thank you, Nigel. I think Nigel has laid out the questions that we are seeking to answer. The methods that we are going to use has partly been described. We're going to start by defining these two climate agreements, and obviously there's quite a lot of detail that has to go into them. There'll be generally low ambition and a high ambition agreement, but how the different programs are implemented and how they vary between the regions and countries. I will give you quite a lot of detail which we will look at. We'll have to identify which SDGs we can analyze. We've got 17, and I'm not sure we can say useful things on all of them, but we'll select the ones where there is something that can be said through the literature on the links. And then we will try to, we've talked about selecting the country studies. So the work we will look at is the use of some of the integrated assessment models, which tell us, or which try to give us some information on how, under climate change, we will see impacts on the economic side. These depend a little on how these different actions are financed and what adaptation programs, mitigation programs are in place. But we also have a literature review which looks at some of the economic analysis which was carried out, some of it as part of the fifth assessment work which was surveyed, on the physical impacts that we can expect, on the economic impacts that go with that, and some of the mitigation and adaptation actions that will take place. This analysis should give us a combination of some quantitative and qualitative assessments for the different indicators on the SDGs, and we'll try and summarize the difference between the different agreements on these particular SDGs. This is just an example of some of the kind of quantitative assessments we hope we can do, we're planning to do, in relation to poverty and growth, which are two of the SDGs. We know that these combination of mitigation actions will impact on growth, and the climate impacts themselves will have an effect on growth. Both these things have there's some ability to quantify them, to model the estimated cost of mitigation on the economy, the cost of the impacts on the economy, and to note that the outcomes depend a little bit will depend on how changes on the changes in poverty will depend on how the programs are financed and what adaptation actions are introduced to try to address the problems that climate change is causing. In terms of hunger, we will look through the linkages through changes in food production and increases in the price of staples. And here again, the estimates of changes in hunger due to different climate approaches will be an outcome of this particular analysis. In terms of renewable and affordable energy and energy efficiency, the models like the integrated assessment models such as GCAM can offer us a direct estimate of the possible changes in the use of renewable and affordable energy, depending on what programs we believe will be implemented. Issues there relate to affordability of the energy and possible effects on vulnerable groups. And then in terms of terrestrial ecosystems, some work has been done using the image globule model, which looks at the impacts on, for example, through the demand for bioenergy and land conversion on terrestrial ecosystems. Again, how can we act to try to what program actions are needed to try to minimize such effects? So not all actions as part of the climate program will have positive effects on the SDGs. Some of the high ambition actions may have a negative effect, depends on how they are implemented. So the basic deliverables are, in the part of A of the project, we'll be presenting the results from the regional analysis, and the final report will include looking at these things in both part A and part B. The part B report will look more detail at the country case studies. We expect to be able to say more on the quantitative side at the country level than we can at the regional level, but there'll be something quantitative on both. So what are we trying to do? We're hoping that some of you will have some information you can provide us. So we're obviously going to trawl the literature as widely as we can on the excuse me. Firstly, any information you may have on the expected trends for the SDGs and their indicators under what we might call business as usual. What do you see as the main links between climate impacts and SDGs in the sector where you are most familiar, or in the region or place where you work, the geographical location where you are familiar? What do you see as the main links between climate financing and the SDGs? And what are the differences? What difference does investment in climate change adaptation make on the achieving of the SDGs? So these are the kind of questions for which we are looking for evidence to support this this program. It's a very short-term program. We have to deliver. Sorry, perhaps the next slide. On the next slide tells us that. Is that it?
No, that's it.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
So we only have a couple of months to really get this thing out.
So actually, I hope you understand what we're trying to do here. Answering these questions now from the floor is an impossible task, but our research team are here, so we can chat to them afterwards. So please do approach them with your thoughts and suggestions on the challenge that they're taking up.